anything that's worth doing has to be a mixture of affirming and challenging. If something is only affirming, it's worthless, unless you're going through some trauma and you're doing therapy or something like that. But even that, I would say, you need to be challenged some degree. Maybe you turn up the dial here, turn down the dial there. And if something is only challenging, then that's not possible. So if you talk about Islam or the teachings of Islam or something, there's going to be some things that you find automatically affirming. Yes, that makes so much sense. This is always the way it should be. You should expect to find things that are challenging. I think it's wrong to develop an expectation that Islam is going to basically tell you things that you already thought were right across the board on everything, right? You should be concerned if that were the truth, because then that means you're not growing. Now, how do you relate to those things that are like, that's different. Whoa, that doesn't make sense. You don't flip off the handle and, or fly off the handle and, go swing wildly from one way of life to another and, quit your jobs and ruin your relationships. No, it's like you have to learn. I think that the most healthy attitude to have towards it is just trying to understand. There's a ton of things in Islam that are on the books that people in modern society are going to find weird. Granted, I would be concerned if that weren't true, because I don't think that modern society is a very, very great place to live. That's just me, right? But if you're committed to understanding, and I use this also if you're trying to talk or explain Islam or clarify Islamic rulings to non-Muslims. I don't expect you to agree, but I want to get you to a point where at least you can see the logic. That it went from like, whoa, categorically, like this is like evil and wrong, to like, okay, I can kind of see where in a certain scenario, I would never want that for myself, but I can see in a scenario where that would make sense. Right? And that it goes for a bunch of things, right? A lot of people talk about corporal punishment. Again, compare that to what they do to people today. You've got people who are the only breadwinners for their family. They're locked up, they're gone, their families fall apart in their absence for a nonviolent offense, right? And it's like, is this the best way? You're telling me that this is the best possible way we could have come up with to punish people? I disagree. And I know that a lot of people do disagree. When it comes to, some people are like, oh my God, like you can marry your cousin. It's like, yeah, so what? Like we used to think that smoking was good for you. We used to think that eggs were bad for you. We used to think, like the data on medicine and what's good and what's not good is changing every day. It's funny. You can tell an arrogant scientist from a humble scientist in one way. You know why? An arrogant scientist will say, we used to think this, but now we know this. Homie, you still think this. You didn't go from thinking to knowing. You went from thinking to thinking, right? Like, no, you used to think X and now you think Y. Because tomorrow you might think Z, right? So personally, growing up in the United States, like I could not imagine having any romantic feelings towards a cousin of mine. That's culturally weird. It's not in me. That's not how I was socialized. But for me to come and say, well, this is genetically harmful and this, and that, and the third, and this study, and that, listen, Allah said it's permitted. Allah is the final arbiter. He knows more than any scientist, all the scientists combined. Allah knows more what's harmful and what's not harmful than all these scientists. And then we're going to find 50 years from now, 100 years from now, people are going to find that actually there's benefits to marrying your cousin, right? Like, and then it'll become a trend. Like, who knows? This is how you have to have a little bit of epistemic humility, right? How much can you know? And how much is outside of your knowledge? And alhamdulillah, as someone who obviously came from my background and accepted Islam, there were things where it's like, I don't really understand that. It's kind of weird, but I'm going to put that in my back pocket. I used to carry a notebook around, ask different ulama. Sometimes the ulama would give me horrible answers even. And I didn't, you have to be mature about it. I wasn't like, oh, that's it. I'm going to, leave Medina and make a refutation video or apostasy video. No, it's like, okay, he didn't understand, or I didn't explain myself well enough, or he's just not the right person to answer that question. And keep going to the next one, the next one, the next one. And for myself personally, eventually I got nearly all, if not all, of my questions answered. So it's just about having that humility. Try to understand. Try to seek to understand. And even if you don't agree, Allah doesn't necessarily ask you to agree. He just asks you to submit. There's a difference between the two.